Hey, how's it going? This is James McKenzie looking at another camera that I've been thinking about reviewing for quite some time. Today we're looking at the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera OG, the original. Yeah, so this is another one of the reviews that I've been wanting to do about these older cameras that are decade old at this point and have been almost resurrected recent days. With this one, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, it's something that I've been looking to get into for a long time. I originally was interested in it when it came out. At that time, we were using Panasonic GH2s with the hack that was available for it, the firmware hack. So we were using those, and I did a lot of research on what it would take to get into the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera at that time, and it was a little bit daunting for me. There was a number of issues with the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera at the time when it first came out that made it really difficult for me to work it into my workflow. Amongst those issues were the use of Cinema DNG, which produced large files. At that time, I wasn't using ProRes either, so I wouldn't have used the ProRes file format at that time. Those file formats, the ProRes, and then the Cinema DNG at the time, well, they still take up a fair amount of storage, but at the time it was even more pronounced storage requirements. So that was the number one thing, was the formats, the codecs. Strangely enough, the codecs, as I'll touch on later, are one of the reasons why I love the camera today. But back in 2013, 2014, when the OG was first introduced versus the GH2, it was just more difficult to work with the files, more difficult to work with the codecs, but also the storage requirements. So that was issue number one. Issue number two was the grading. So it's still known that the video profile in the OG is not a great look. So it's almost universally used with the film profile, which is a very flat log style look. And again, this is something that I'll touch on later is a big plus now, but at the time, having to color grade was not something that I was interested in my workflow. It wasn't something that I had been used to up to that point with video. So that's the second main issue. Third issue was somewhat the form factor. It's a great form factor, but at the time in 2013, 2014, compared to the GH2, which was such a utilitarian camera, and what we were doing at the time, or what we were using the GH2s for, we had two of them. We had two GH2s, and then we also had another Panasonic HMC 150, I believe, which was more of a ENG style, all-in-one Panasonic camcorder that also shot HD as well onto SD cards. So we had three cameras. We would often use the GH2 to do run and gun type stuff on my daughter's channel. So we were going into shopping centers, Toys R Us, that type of thing with that particular camera, as well as outdoor stuff. So it needed to be light and easy to carry, good ergonomics, which in a lot of cases the Pocket has that as well, but it's not as full featured. You definitely needed some type of preamps, weren't great, whereas with the GH2 it had decent preamps and it had a built-in scratch audio, decent scratch audio as well on the GH2. So it was a really those were the two cameras that I was sort of looking at back in 2000, probably 2013, 2014, in around there when we were working on those projects. So we ended up going with the GH2. We had a couple of those, and again that Panasonic all-in-one camcorder style recorder, which is what I'd been used to with the original DVX 100, which was such a wicked camera. That was one of my first cameras that shot 24p. So it was in that sort of line. Great glass, zoom lens, smaller sensors, but really great color rendition. I was already a fan of the Panasonic ecosystem, so it was a no-brainer to continue along with that during that project. So now, fast forward to last year, I picked this up, 2023, got the OG, which is, as you can see, even with this relatively good sized zoom lens, 12 to 35, it's very small, very easy to carry around. So now what are the things that I love about this camera in 2023, 2024 now? Probably a lot of the same things that I mentioned as negatives in 2013, 2014. So right off the bat, we have the form factor, which is like very small, very pocketable. And now with the Rode wireless mic that you can attach, put the receiver right in this hot shoe attachment that I've got on here, plug it right into the ports on the side. You have like a small preamp and a lav mic that you can use. So that's a very useful addition to it. Very small form factor, doesn't ruin the form factor of the camera. So that kind of takes care of the audio issue that it had. The codecs, which I mentioned first, were a bit of a negative back in originally when we were using the GH2s. Now the codecs are one of the primary reasons why I love this camera. The Cinema DNG is a fantastic codec, such a gradable codec. I don't shoot ProRes on this camera, never really have. But once I started shooting Cinema DNG and accepted the fact that I was going to have to be in DaVinci Resolve, it's been fantastic. I mean, that's really just opened up the grading possibilities. It's just such a fantastic application to work with the files that come out of this camera. So the codecs are one of the primary reasons why I love this camera. Cinema DNG is just essentially like individual frames of raw images. So it's as close to film negative as you could pretty much get. So that's been like one of the main reasons why I love this camera. And then the lenses that you can put on it, same as the GH2. This here is the 12 to 35 f2.8 Lumix lens with a variable ND. And this is generally how I shoot with it. I have other micro four thirds lenses that I can use on this. But for the most part, when I grab it, I'm grabbing it with this lens and just going out and shooting with it just like this. I have a cage for it. There's other, I've rigged it up in different configurations before, but ultimately it's best for me in this form factor, which is just simple, really not even rigged. Just got the one cold shoe that I've bolted on, and then a tripod plate that is, it's a Peak Design capture plate, so you can put it into your holder to carry it with, which is fantastic. So this is the way I've been using it. I do have a small monitor that I've used with it, but I don't tend to use the monitor with it. One of the weaknesses of this camera is HDMI port is very easy to break. So it would only be advisable to use the micro HDMI if it had the cage on it, and I do have the cage, and the cage has a locking mechanism for the HDMI connection, so then you can screw it in and tighten it in so it doesn't put any force on the port. There's actually a Lanc port too that works with the Sony Lanc control handles, so you can remotely trigger, record, and headphones and mic input. Very simple camera, very simple menuing system. Just a fantastic, true cinema camera with beautiful color density. I think it's really that codec, that's Cinema DNG, and the very special sensor that this camera has. It's a Super 16 size sensor, and it's just a tiny sensor by comparison to a lot of the cameras out there now with full frame. APS-C Super 35 being like a smaller format. Super 16 is a very special format. Now, one of the drawbacks of the Super 16 sensor size is the focal lengths. You really need some decently wide lenses if you want to get full use out of this camera. I have some cinema primes, some micro four thirds cinema primes from Mikey that I have an 8mm, 12mm, and 16mm, which seem all super wide, but when you multiply them by the crop factor on the Super 16 sensor, it's essentially just under 3 times crop. So you're looking at, for an 8, you're looking at a 24mm, roughly. For a 12, you're looking at a 36mm, and for a 16, you're looking at a 48mm. Now they're a little bit off that because it's actually 2.88 times crop factor, but just essentially those 3 lenses work out to be essentially a 24, 35, and 50, which is a great little lens kit, and those are all cinema primes, really good. T2.2 on the longer focal lengths, and then the wide, the 8mm has a T2.9. So that's a great little set to go along with this. But like I said, 95% of the time when I'm taking this camera out, it's got this 12 to 35 f2.8 on it with the variable ND. It's almost pocketable. I mean, that lens is quite good, a good size, but you can throw it in a jacket pocket. It's certainly not daunting to carry it around, and it's easy to shoot with it. It's not intimidating to other people. It's the equivalent of the Ricoh GR. I mean, obviously bigger than a Ricoh GR, or the Sony RX1, which is another one of my favorite walk-around cameras, or the Fuji X100 that I've done videos on before, the X100S. I mean, obviously the lens makes it bigger, but you can get pancake lenses for this too. It's just I prefer to have the zoom range, which gives you basically a full set of a full range cinema primes in a single lens that's got good optics and fairly good low light performance with a f2.8. So that's my review of the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera OG in 2024. Why did I buy it 10 years after I originally looked at it? Why I didn't buy it then, and why I love it now. Strangely enough, most of the reasons why I didn't buy it then are the reasons why I love it now. Lanterne Rouge camera reviews are coming in 10 years late on a camera that, you know, most people are way beyond. So these are the kinds of things I like to review because I'm not commercial. I'm not looking to sell anything. Looking for some really cool stuff that's still out there and that works, that can inspire creativity and get me out shooting, which is the goal. So I appreciate all those people that do watch my videos. It's awesome. I'm glad to have the few people that I do have on my channel along for the ride, and I would love it if some of you guys would comment below and, you know, reach out, and I would love to see what you guys are doing too. Like if you have a channel, I would love to see what you're doing, because, you know, this big YouTuber thing with like all the commercial, I'm trading in the last great thing for the newest and greatest thing. It's just not my vibe, and I know there's lots of people out there that have that same idea, which is that use what you already have, use something that you can pick up relatively inexpensively that's not going to break the bank, and go and create some beautiful things. So that's what I'm going to leave it with. Thanks for stopping in, and go out and create some beautiful things. Have a great day.
Sure.
We're only a couple sites, right?
Yeah, just a few feet.